So hello. Today we have Tamar Weiss with us from Global Innovation Manager as the IncBev. Please, Tamar, introduce yourself as you wish.
Sure. Hi, so I'm Tamar, Global Innovation Manager at AB InBev. You're probably familiar with us. AB InBev, we're the largest beverage company, our core being beer, but actually in recent years expanding also to additional types of beverages. And as Global Innovation Manager, I oversee the innovation process, work with the functions to understand challenges, possibilities where tech can really add value. And I focus on supply chain and sustainability.
So then probably our first questions will go for sustainability. So in your enormous multinational company, what are the biggest features of your focus on sustainability?
Okay, so as a beverage company, we really look across our entire supply chain, starting from our procurement, raw materials, our farmers, plastics, all of the materials that we procure, in that sense, sustainability, being an important factor. Also, in terms of we want to work with suppliers that are sustainable and also help our farmers become more sustainable. So really starting from the beginning, moving into our breweries, where our production facilities, looking how to utilize and make the most efficient use of energy, water, anything that has to do with our production, and then our logistics, and even then to our retailers, where we have different programs around bringing renewable energy to our small businesses and small retailers until marketing and sales. In terms of our focus on sustainability, we have 5 main pillars. So agriculture, water, energy, packaging, and upcycling as like the major issues and how we orient the way that we think about sustainability. And I'll mention that we actually also have a accelerator, the 100 Plus accelerator, which is our accelerator focused on sustainability. We're now in our 3rd cohort, and this year for the first time, also Unilever, Coca-Cola, and Colgate joined as well. So we orient that program also according to the 5 pillars that I just mentioned, and looking then across our supply chain in these areas.
Mm-hmm. So do you have focus on some particular geographical region or activity sector, or do you just go as it's applicable for all of those if you work with them?
So in terms of geography, it really depends on the topic and the focus. So if we start from agriculture, we have 13 countries where we have direct farmers growing our barley, hops, cassava, rice, our major crops. And for that, obviously, those would be the main focus. Whereas for the production, it really depends where the brewery is. So in terms of geography, it also, again, depends what topic we're tackling, and also the infrastructure in that place and the sustainability issues. So if we look at packaging, for example, we have a lot of efforts around now reducing plastic, recycling, reuse, the major, topics that everyone's thinking about, how to make our packaging more sustainable. And here it's a little bit different between Europe and Brazil, or depending on the place, depending on the country, on the readiness, on the type of consumers that we have, as well as also now the taxes aspects that are coming in, the infrastructure. So as a global company, the truth is that we probably have something in every region around these topics, but depending on the issue, our work there will be different. I'll say also from the technology aspect, the technology readiness is very different between different places. So aside from, the issues of a specific region, also obviously a lot has to do with the the readiness, the price of the technology, the ability to adopt it.
So how do you then balance food innovation with sustainability at AB InBev? How, since you are the focusing more on food innovation, as you say?
So I think today already you can't really separate the two. The food industry is going through a huge change, like most productive industries, and thinking about how to produce more sustainably. And this is also something that our consumers really care about. So aside from the fact that it's also obviously something that we all have to do, because otherwise the planet will be in trouble. Also, we see that in our brands and in our the packaging, the materials, and so forth. This is becoming, as like the world becomes more aware and more enthusiastic, consumers are really looking for more sustainable solutions. On the food tech side, in terms of beverages or ingredients, like I mentioned, we've also been branching out from our core, which has always been beer. And one topic that is growing and important is the whole question of health and wellness. So health and wellness in beverages a lot of times goes hand in hand with more sustainable ingredients. So looking, at protein-based beverages or using ingredients from things like algae. As that market really develops and people care both about health, but also about sustainability, we see that these trends go together and are leading in us in the same direction in rethinking how to also expand into new areas and provide our consumers with the beverages that they're looking for. On the upcycling side, I mentioned one of our pillars in sustainability is really upcycling our waste. And this is something that we started in the last few years to really develop. So it started with our spent grain, where we launched, and this is already public information, that we have a partnership with a company called Evergrain around taking our spent grain and really producing a protein ingredient out of that. So looking similarly also at spent yeast and at our other co-products or waste streams, this again tackles both issues, because on the one hand, this is core food tech, developing a protein ingredient, but from our waste streams in a way which is more environmental friendly and sustainable. So here again, we see the way that food tech and sustainability can really go together, and also in thinking of new ventures or new streams of how we imagine our growth. In the end, we want to deliver really on both fronts in this very interesting space.
So working together definitely should help it, and hopefully, all of those projects will come in hand and will progress. So within the path of development, what are the biggest challenges that you face today and maybe potentially in the future, if you consider whether it's regard the sustainability or just food innovation, or maybe even together, if you talk about those as a major unified goal?
Challenges are many. Also, I think in innovation in general, it's always really a path to understand how you take an idea and then really execute and incorporate and grow and scale a technology. With sustainability, I think it's even a lot of times harder than usual. Firstly, a lot of these projects are very CapEx intense, and the ROI isn't immediate. And while everyone believes in the importance and again, the world has to go there, I think we all already understand that it's not something that anyone can disregard as unimportant. When we think about our budget and the one-year plan and innovation projects, and then also I want to introduce technologies that I know will definitely work and that we can show the value within the corporate to then get the attention and the funding that we need to scale. And some of the topics of sustainability, it's still more difficult to prove the business case, to understand also how you measure the impact. If I bring a company and a technology, a startup, and put together a business case showing, it's by 2 years, we'll already have a return on our investment and it'll save X million dollars, that's a much easier idea to sell or to start getting buy-in and excitement around. And with sustainability, it's always a little bit like a dream. And also, even if you can show that there's a potential of saving 2 million tons of CO2, that's still something that in the business lens, it's not always clear how to explain like why that moves the needle or why is that important. So I think one challenge is really getting the buy-in or translating the idea or the dream into something which is in terms that the people on the ground can really relate to and understand the value that it gives them and be committed to the project. On the CapEx front also, again, a lot of these, like especially if we look at renewable energy or energy savings, like around the climate action pillar, a lot of these projects need intense CapEx. So there are all kinds of grants and funding coming around that can help with that, but it's a different realm. So that also makes it a little bit challenging. I think the challenges, like also in terms of scaling projects after, and like in every innovation, even once you have a pilot that's successful, the question of then how to roll out or how to find the right places, how to really identify where it can be adapted and what that adaptation would mean is another difficulty. And maybe one other point to touch upon is the lack of infrastructure. So there are certain things like reuse and returnable bottles or renewable energy that without the infrastructure in the place, which is a story which is much larger than only us, it's very hard to put together an end-to-end solution. So even when we do identify a startup or a technology which is amazing, exciting, we validate, we really believe it can check a lot of the boxes and be relevant, then the question is, but we don't yet have, like, who's going to supply the hydrogen? Or, okay, it's an amazing technology to recycle a plastic, but how are we going to collect all the bottles? So like there are lots of things that sound trivial or small in terms of like the potential of a huge project like that. But if you don't solve that, or if you don't have the way to really make sure end to end that it can be executed, that the solution can really be evolve within our actual operations, then there's no point. Like then you don't really know where even to start. You know that it will fail.
Yeah, like we're all in this together, and it's not applicable just for the pandemic. It's definitely overall when it comes to any kind of innovation and sustainability. So I wish you very much good luck with that one. I hope that those projects will be like at its best, like all of those. As for inspiration for new innovation or maybe alterations which you would like to apply for the already existing projects, where do you get it? Does it come from you being inspired by some organizations, and maybe then which ones, or does it come from observing a bee for the whole day and then you just get onto some kind of idea?
Wow. So here I think like a lot of it is you have the external piece and the internal piece, I guess. And firstly, in terms of collaboration, I think that the world in general is becoming more collaborative, but in sustainability especially because of the challenges that we mentioned, that a lot of the huge companies understand that we can't do it on our own, and that a lot of these pain points and challenges that we're trying to solve are relevant for all. So also, like, an example of that is the partnerships that, are already official, like what I said about our 100 plus accelerator, where now Coca-Cola, Unilever, Colgate, and AB InBev all came together around these challenges, because we really don't see it as a competition. We think it's something that to crack, we all have to work together and use each one's expertise and each one's ability to pilot certain things, and to gain and share that knowledge and inspiration. Also, on the innovation front, I have to say, a lot of times we each share with each other many opportunities and companies. So there's a startup that we piloted after we got the recommendation from the innovation team of Pepsi, where they already did a pilot with them and it was successful. And then they said, it could actually also be really relevant for you. It's a company in the world of water intelligence and water savings. And we indeed got that access to the company because of their partnership with Pepsi. So there's a lot of shared effort and due diligence and sharing opportunities as inspiration as well. I think, like, from my point of view, one thing that I really enjoy, but is obviously challenging sometimes, is also the ability to understand a potential of a specific company to give us value, even if it isn't directly aiming for that specific use case at the moment. So especially in sustainability, when there's still, I think, like, now it's a trend that people are becoming more aware of, but till now, a lot of technologies weren't first thinking in that direction. So, for example, a lot of visual companies, like, that do specific kinds of sensors, or an ability to identify, like a RFID sensor, or ability to identify specific materials. Their immediate is more in, like, the automotive realm, or on an industrial issue that's not related to sustainability in any way. And then sometimes when I come across a very cool technology, I on my own try to think, how can this also be relevant on this front? And maybe there's a use case that we can think of together that would be helpful also to help save water, or to help identify, to help us improve our energy usage, different things like that. And a lot of times, actually, companies are very open-minded. I feel like it's sometimes a long shot, and until you're able to really construct a project and put the funding and so forth, obviously it's you have to take all the steps necessary to really validate and commit. But I haven't yet come across a startup that, when I reached out and I said, oh, this is something that we're really looking for, and I think your technology maybe can be relevant, didn't want to hear about it. So it also shows that I think these are issues that everyone already understands, that technology is the only solution. It's our way forward, and it really is gonna decide the continuation and the growth of industrial players. So, yeah.
Okay, so, but that's if we talk about major, so like companies as companies. And when it comes to your consumers, to what extent, like, they are genuinely engaged with your efforts when it comes to, like, even sustainability as it is?
So our consumers are very engaged. It's also a topic that we see, again, that people really care about. Our different brands, we've committed to different types of challenges. And through that, we actually have the opportunity, through our brands, to also gain awareness and communicate with our consumers against a specific challenge. So, for example, Corona is our brand that is very focused on sustainable packaging. And here, also it's like become part of what the brand stands for. And we have the Corona Challenge and the different, now we're working on a specific solution with the startup called Solutum to do a stretch film that biodegrades in water. So it's an interesting case of how also, Corona stands for, it's a beer which is very much linked to the beach, to having fun, to water, like from Mexico, things like that. And already for some time, the whole question of like ocean pollution and how to reduce plastic, so to save our ocean, has become really an issue that Corona stands for. And in our packaging solutions, we also communicate that, and also communicate and push for awareness to the challenge, but also communicate with our consumers on topics that we know they care about. So that's one example. Budweiser, on the other hand, is our brand, which is really focused on renewable energy. So we already have a brewery also in the UK and also in the US that really brew Budweiser 100% from renewable. And that is also a way of really taking a brand and using it also to communicate with our consumers on the sustainability front. And we see from the feedback and everything that really this is something that more and more people are excited about, care about, want to participate, want to help. I think in general, and it's amazing to see the commitment that the world and our consumers have, and for wanting to also, continue to consume products that are high quality and that they love, but also that stand for something and that give meaning.
Every time me and my friends are going to drink Corona, next time I'm definitely going to think about it. It's absolutely amazing. Really gives me a completely different perspective on like even this just tiny product. So that's amazing. So as like this whole topic is all about you sharing the perspectives on the balancing food innovation with sustainability, is there anything else that you would like to add personally from yourself as part of it, as maybe a call to the auditorium or something, if anything comes to your mind?
So I think maybe just to highlight some of the things also that we spoke about, because I think it's relevant for anyone who has ideas and wants to take part, because I really believe that innovation in general and in sustainability specifically, partnerships are key. And a lot of times only when we think together and think creatively, we can find relevant solutions. And technology is the only way forward. It's really the only way to change the way we produce things. And always happy if someone has a company or technology that they think might be relevant, that they'd want to discuss with me and try to think if there's a use case that we're exactly thinking about that technology can help us solve, then we're very happy to, I'm very happy to speak to around that front.
That's great. I hope it will definitely work. So thank you so much then for today's session. I think we all, including personally me, will learn a lot about it, and hopefully it will also have the ground for prosperous cooperation among everyone. So thank you.
Thank you.